We're back with another round of the 60 plus racing adventures. It's season 18, everybody, and welcome along to Phillip Island, a tremendous venue out in Australia. And we'll be able to see these Pro Mazda 18 cars head on round here for two 22 lap races in this series. My name is Paul Smith. I'm not joined by David Haynes as we normally would. Instead, it's going to be Nolan Rempel joining us here on commentary for today. But right now, let's have a look, because the schedule so far, there you can see it. We started off at Watkins Glen. We had a tremendous couple of races down there at Watkins Glen, live on RaceSpotTV. You can find that on our channel. And then the series headed to Monza, Iowa, then the Nordschleife, which is always fun in this car, Hockenheim, and then, as you can see, live here, round 6 at Phillip Island. The series is then going to continue next week at Long Beach, Daytona, Laguna Seca, Phoenix, Spa, and then, as always, our traditional end to the series live on RaceSpotTV, and this time from Barber Motorsport Park, which is a track I really enjoy, actually. It's a fun track to run these cars around in. Let's see how the championship is going, and wow, you can't get much closer than that. So it's Ragnar Wisloff who leads the championship by 2 points over John Morgan, who's a further 2 points ahead of Steve Greenwood. Paul Stump then, it's a further 2 points back from them. Then there's a little bit of a gap, 8 points to Greg Bystrom. Stefan Rosjan is in 6th place, only 16 points off of the championship leader. Randy Shoemake in 8th ahead of Kenneth Baldwin. And Barry Hills round out the top 10 of your championship. And if you're new to the series, well, welcome along. You're going to be in for some thrilling racing that you'll see here today. And this series, they do have a different take on how the championship points are scored. So it is the best result from your 2 rounds of the championship today that you will take into your championship standings. Nolan joins us here, and well, Phillip Island, it's a track that's well known for the supercars and also for the MotoGP as well. But today we've got the Pro Mazda on here. What a tremendous venue!
It's a tremendous venue indeed, and I mean, it's certainly a very, very flowing track as well. Definitely the premier facility when it comes to Australia and their permanent road courses. I think one of the biggest opportunities we'll be seeing here for passing in particular will be into the Honda hairpin down through the Stoner corner for turn number 4. That's obviously a very popular passing opportunity. Of course, gotta look out there as well for the very long run that you can get through turn 12 all the way down the Gardner Straight. It's such a fast facility. So with these Indy Pro 2000 PM18s, about 31 strong, it is bound to be a very, very good race today.
And of course, it's a fixed setup championship, so it's all about the driver here today, and it means it brings in some tremendously close action. I mean, I'm looking at the qualifying, which is currently ongoing at the moment. Just 1 second covers the top 14 drivers, so it shows tremendously how close this series and these drivers are.
Oh yeah, fixed championships, in my opinion, they're some of the best championships you can find, because it makes sure that everything is going to be down to the driver. It's not so much about the car, it's about what you can do with the car underneath you. If you're struggling with maybe looseness or tightness, it's most likely that every single person on the grid will be struggling the exact same amount as you are. So these guys are going to have to be extremely careful here with these machines. It's a very easy track to make mistakes on with how fast it can be, but it's obviously a very, very fun track as well. So when you got a fixed setup championship like this, with all of these guys getting thrown together into such a fantastic venue, you know you're only in for a good show.
There you see the conditions then, completely clear skies, track temperature just 26 degrees, so quite cool is the track here today compared to what we've seen in the past in this series. So normally what we would say is if it was a little bit hotter, the track conditions, they would be having to look after those rear tyres, because this car, if you're not careful with those rear tyres, it can really affect your performance, especially around here where you've got those 2 tight hairpins. You've got to get the good launch out of those, don't you?
You absolutely do. You need to make sure that you can get the best launch out of those hairpins. In particular, the MG hairpin is very critical to get right in the downhill run through Lukey Heights. That's one of the easiest corners to make a mistake on this facility, is that turn number 10. It's a downhill braking zone into one of the sharpest corners on the racetrack, and you have to be turning a little bit while you're braking too. So the front right tire locking up could be a very common sight today.
Certainly could be. Well, time is running out for those drivers out on track. Nobody's really setting any lap times here because they've pretty much used their lap times up. So we'll be able to bring you the qualifying results very shortly. But as Nolan pointed out, 31 cars on the grid. Good sized field for the drivers out there. And it's going to be a good day at the front of the field because with the times being so close, anything could happen towards the championship. So as the session will change over here, we'll be getting set to bring you your starting grid up on screen very shortly indeed. In fact, there it is. So it's Ragnar Wisloff then, pole position, only by a tenth and a quarter ahead of Gary Bystrom. Row number 2 is Stephen Greenwood with Paul Stump. And then John Morgan and Kenneth Baldwin, incredibly close between those two, just 9 thousandths of a second between those two on 5th and 6th. Row number 4, Bob Cohen then with David Costello right alongside him. Barry Hills and Douglas Beasley round out row number 5 with an exact equal time. So that's incredibly close between those two. Russ Addy, former champion, is in row number 6 with Jack Turner, and David Riley and Joel Martin on row number 7. Row number 8 then, Louis Canal and Jahadis Yorison with Stefan Roscher, multiple champion he's always there or thereabout in this car. He's getting better with it. He's in 17th with Wally Moresby rounding out your top 18.
In the 19th position is going to be Gerard Flores and Randy Shoemake making an appearance here in the 20th position. A very prominent runner and a familiar name to those that are tuned in as well to the Classic IndyCar series. Paul Hellstrom is in the 21st position with Steve O'Malley in the 22nd position. G. Moore is in 23rd with Bob Kern in the 24th position. Rounding out drivers that have set times about 2.5 seconds behind your pole sitter is J.C. Hay and Jerry Kerr. Drivers that have not set times on the grid so far have been Donald Poole and Franz Brink, Robert Love and Ernie Cancio, rounding out the 29th and 30th with Dev Connolly all by his lonesome there in the 31st position down on the grid. So it is looking to be an incredibly fun race today. I think it's worth noting here. It's worth noting as well here, Paul, that Donald Poole has not made the starting grid. So he will find himself started from pit lane.
If indeed he does end up taking the start, hopefully we will, because Donald is a prominent member of this community, and it is very much a community of 60 plus racing adventures. It's always tremendous to see these drivers competing out there and having fun, and you certainly see that week on week, and whenever we get to broadcast this series, which we thoroughly enjoy doing, it's always good action and fair racing as well out there. There's very little egos, which is always nice to see. But Nolan, we're just getting around the second half of the lap on the warm-up lap here. Thoughts going into this one? What's going to be key for those maybe not quite on the front row?
I think patience could be key. If some of those guys up front really do start to race hard, which the possibility is very real in the run through Stoner down to the Honda, patience could be key. And of course, keeping a careful eye out for the early lap carnage is always a good thing to note, as well as they're now rounding their way here through Lukey Heights towards the MG hairpin for the final time before we take the green flag for the first time today.
So getting set for the start here of round number 6, or week number 6 of season 18 of the 60 plus racing adventures. Hope you all enjoy the show here today. It is going to be a good one, that's for sure. Pace car pulls off. We're now in the hands of Ragnar Wisloff, who's patient. He's waiting. He's not going to go too early. Now he's going to go. We're going to have the green flag in the air. Green flag across the line they go. Look at this grid. Charging across the line. Down towards turn 1 they go. Quite a fast right-hander. Hopefully everybody's got their tyres and brakes up to somewhat of a temperature. We've got charging battles. Douglas Beasley's moved up ahead of Barry Hills in the early going, but Barry is going to make a comeback at Douglas as they head in towards Honda for the first time. John Morgan and Paul Stump battling away up towards the front. As they're going through, we've got a car on the grass. Hopefully everyone can avoid it. A little bit of bumping. And there's a car spun round. That's Douglas Beasley, I believe, who's spun round. Yes, it is. As we've got more cars off in the background as well. Generally speaking, though, Nolan, a clean start.
4 of the 30 cars have been eliminated here, it would appear, at least from the front runners. And for the most part, it looks like suspension damage sees a lot of those drivers dumped out of the race early on. Just in those little pieces of contact, that's all it really takes. But we continue to watch the field duck its way now out of the MG hairpin and up through turn 11 before we get to the flat-out left-hander, of turn number 12, all the way down the front straightaway. The top 3 have broken away from the majority of the field here, and Wislov here could be under fire from Gary Bystrom here. Wislov going to go all the way to the right side to try to defend. Now it starts to cut back to the left as Bystrom makes the look around the outside, but not close enough to go for the move into turn 1.
The car's bottoming out all the way down the straight there as they head on through turn 2. Out the corner, as you say, Nolan, the front 3 making a little bit of a break at the front. They've not quite got rid of the draft to John Morgan, so Morgan can potentially draft back up to this front 3. This is what that battle for 4th place. They can't afford to be battling too hard. We've got cars off. There's a big schmozzle there, and Douglas Beasley is one of those as well.
G. Moore and Dev Donnelly were the 2 drivers that were kind of tangled together there. Going to take a look at the replay here, see what sparked this one up. This was the battle here for a 22nd place on back of the grid. So this is a pretty far way down the order. Going to take a look at this replay here. Who's the first one to go off? It's going to be the orange car, I believe, of JC Hay that goes off first. And there's the purple car, the 65 G Mower that spins round, and the 95 completely unsighted. That was Donnelly that got unsighted, and another driver slammed into it. That was Douglas Beasley, the driver in the 26th position, who would just know where to go in the number 9.
So one car goes off anyway, but Gene just got a wheel on the dirt there, and that's all it takes to lose adhesion and traction. And he's back out there, but your leaders are still together. Still plenty of time remaining in this one. We're on lap 3 only, so plenty of opportunities out there for these drivers as they head on around. John Morgan has caught up a little bit. What have you seen there?
Sostello's off and into the grass, and he's into the tire barriers as well, as we cut back to that one just in time, and Sostello will be out of the race. He was in the 8th position at the top of the lap.
So let's see what happens to him. He is battling there with the 32 of Bob Cohen. He's got Russ Addy behind him as well. Oh, they had a slow car coming out of pit road there, and it's going to be all on his own here. Carried too much speed. So easily done there. He's trying to keep it out the wall and just clips it.
It's an off-camber runoff area, which means it's almost impossible to get yourself back out onto the racing surface, which is, it adds to the challenge of Phillip Island, as those runoff areas are so often off-camber and downhill as well in the direction of the barrier. It makes it, if you go off the track, nearly impossible to stop no matter what kind of a car you're driving. It could be a Mazda MX-5, it could be one of these Indy Pro 2000s, it could even be a Dallara IR18. It doesn't matter. You are going to find yourself in the barriers 90% of the time when you fly off the runoff areas here. Sostello, as you can see, dropping down the timing boards there, as he was, I believe, the driver that had just crashed out as well. But the battle for the lead still very much on as Bystrom tries to run down regular Wislov. Yeah,
I think we're going to see a game of patience here as John Morgan has caught up to the back of these. He's dragged along Paul Stump with him. Kenneth Baldwin is not that far behind him. So that front 6 now are all together out there on track. There you see them in shot together. And Russ Addy is a little bit further back, 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds back. That's going to be difficult to try and get to this front 6 because they are all together. They're all going to be using that draft against or with each other, as John Morgan is on a bit of a charge at the moment here. As we go on board with him, he's there in 4th place. As you can see, this lead battle is pretty close out there on track, and hopefully, touch wood, it'll be like this for the rest of the race as well.
Bit of a lock-up there from the race leader of Wisloff, and that goes back to what I was saying before about how that's one of the most easy corners to make a mistake on. Downhill braking zone, you're turning while you're braking. It's the perfect way to lock the right front up. That's exactly what Wisloff did into the MG hairpin. So that has cost him a bit of time back to Bystrom, who is getting a massive head of steam here with that draft down the front straightaway. Now he's going to make the look to the left. We're going to be side by side for the race lead here, Paul. Down to the turn number 1. Can Wisloff hang on around the inside of 1? That's going to put the number 64 car way on the outside, stepping the back end out just a little bit, but Wisloff manages to hang on to the position as just behind Greenwood tries to dime it off the corner.
Yeah, you've got to be brave to make that move work around the outside of 1, but this is certainly really good action up here at the front of the field as they're heading into the hairpin at Honda. Looking again behind them, Steve Greenwood is having to go defensive from John Morgan, so he's there in 4th place. I said that they hadn't broken the draft, and that brought him in and the rest of them, Stump and Baldwin, into this battle for the lead. And if these two leaders fight too much here, Nolan, they'll start getting other cars closing up to them.
Every corner you're side by side with, you're costing yourself valuable time. So if this is one of those tracks where if you want to get a pass done, you got to get it done quickly before you lose yourself too much time. Right on board here with that 64 machine as he exits turn 11 here. The short blast before the flat-out right-hander of turn 12 does not get the best of runs that time, though, through turn number 11.
Yeah, we just...
And it
sorry,
appears as though...
Yeah, it's a little bit of an issue with his connection, but he's back. And he is there, still in 2nd place. So, yeah, that's the other problem when you go on board with somebody whose connection just goes a little bit funny.
Well, no matter the case, it is back now, which is a good thing to see, but you have to keep an eye on that one, as his Bystrom's into that. Still not wanting to play nice, it would seem. It's definitely trying to be the wrench of the works there, but you never know. Hopefully he'll get himself back in here.
Bystrom is dropping down the order. Please don't tell me that he's had a technical problem with his connection and that it's causing him to drop out this race. That could well be what's happened here. And if you're Ragnar Wisloff, you don't want to finish that battle in that way, but at the same time, as Barry Hills is off, he's been in the wars. He was missing his front wing. We'll see what happened there.
This is, I think, going to be down to the Honda hairpin. This is. He was battling for position with the 32 machine.
It's Bob Cohen, is that?
So, Bob Cohen down into the corner here is the 66 car of Barry Hills. Oh, nose to tail contact, and that sends the 66 around and hard into the wall.
I don't think Bob lasted much longer either. I think he had an issue there and has dropped off. In fact, he had a connection problem. The question here is, we've also lost Russ Addy as well. Are these people who are using similar internet providers? Because I've seen it before in Monday Night Skippies, which we show here on RaceSpotTV. There was a race at Spa a couple of seasons ago where instantly 10 drivers dropped out of the race because they were all on the same internet provider.
That does look to be the case here. Russ Addy is having the issues, so is Bob Cohen. Joel Martin is also having some severe issues as well. Bystrom, by the way, did officially get removed from the session as a result, and now Bob Cohen has just been the next victim to fall short of that one. Bystrom, meanwhile, has reconnected, so hopefully he'll get it back out there on the track here momentarily, but that is bad news here for a couple of guys on the grid. It seems like it is only those drivers, and they tend to be more towards the East Coast, I see. Texas, Pennsylvania is what I'm seeing there. Oh, another big trouble here. That's the 7 car that's been spun round of Gerard Florison.
Yeah, and that's Douglas Beasley was with him. Now, Beasley is a lap down. So is this just a case of miscommunication? We'll have to wait and see. Or is it going to be a missed braking point into Honda? And yeah, Beasley all locked up there. Nothing that he could do other than try and stop the car even quicker, which wasn't going to help. And that's Florison. And he's taken a trip back to the pit. So Florison is now done. Of course, they do get a free repair in this series. And John Morgan up to second place. All while we were checking out all the action happening with them, Morgan's up to second place. He's on a charge.
He took away the second position from Steve Greenwood the last time by here down the front straightaway. Greenwood kind of let him have that here, just kind of hang a bit left towards the pit wall there. So, John Morgan now up to second, and he's up 3 spots where he started today, so he's got a serious shot here of running down Wislov here if that 30 car makes any mistakes. But the driver that's been up the most so far appears to have been Kern and Brink, both up 11 from where they have started so far today.
Well, don't forget as well, Ernie Cancio, just mind his own business, up 14. That's right, 14, 1-4 positions here in this race. So Ernie Cancio looking to get a good haul of points out there. So that's going to be good for him as we are back to the front of your field. These guys are going to carry on fighting. The rest of your field are pretty spread out. There's Randy Shoemaker and Louis Canal are pretty close together, and David Riley and Jahadis Yorison are pretty close together. But other than that, everybody else is pretty spread out, being involved in either various incidents or just out there running on their own. So, I mean, I can think of worse tracks to be running on your own than Phillip Island, that's for sure, because it is quite the challenge to be in a close pack, battling away around this track.
And all of the attrition around the track has meant that this is now one of the only big trains we've got. This is the biggest pack we've got here, is first on down through 5th. There is another battle between 7th and 6th, but this kind of just hanging around on its own, and there hasn't been much updates in there for a while. So take a ride on board here with just looking at the gearbox and the rear wing of Wislov as he looks back towards John Morgan, who is continuing to close it in. It is worth noting here. So it's at the point now where Wislov is under some serious threat here. It's just about a quarter of a second between them.
Yeah, it's pretty close between the pair of them as they head on through. You can see all that tyre smoke. Of course, that tyre smoke is a lot thicker than it used to be on iRacing. The latest build, they changed the smoke effects here in the sim. So if there's a big accident where there's a big cloud of smoke, you really do have to hammer onto the anchors and hope that you avoid any contact. And we've got a car off in the wall. It's David Riley. So that was one of your battles that was out there on track. He's had issues and he's dropped down to 12th place here.
So this is Riley here. This is down to the MG hairpin. This is so far so good on the 14 car. Has he just too much of a bootful on the exit there, and just barely kisses the wall there with the front wing. Shouldn't have too much damage from that hit with the tires, hopefully. Bit of a struggle to get it going. He does have to kind of go uphill and spins the wheels a bit, but that car does manage to get itself back onto the racetrack, so hopefully for Dave Riley, won't be too much of an issue there going forward. That battle for the race lead is looking mighty close, though, as they're now diving their way here through turn number 8. We ride on board with Morgan.
Yep, into Lukey Heights. And we're heading towards the halfway point of this race as well. So still plenty to happen here on the brakes. Morgan locking up that inside right front. You've got to be careful with that because there are more left-hand corners than right-handers. So you do lean on that right-hand wheel quite a bit, especially through these long corners. Through the last corner in particular, turn 2. Siberia, of course, and through Lukey Heights, you really do lean on that front right hander. You can hear them almost on the rev limiter, not quite close enough to make any move, but he's showing he's wanting to get past, and he's showing he's keen here.
And Morgan is a driver that at the moment can definitely go for that race lead. And I think it's only a matter of time here before we see that 177 car making the look around Wislov here for the overall race lead. down into the Honda hairpin once again for the 11th time today, and we'll be halfway this next time by at the line in the first race out of 2 for the day. Oh, here we go. Morgan trying the outside of Siberia. Not going to be able to get the run that he needs, though. He's going to have to get back in line.
Yeah, Wislov got a little bit crossed up there on the exit of Honda, and that's seeing him coming under increasing pressure. Stefan Rosgen on the timing tower has moved up a position, so he's up into 7th place now. Jack Turner down to 8th. But this lead battle, this is tremendous stuff, and you can see the different lines that drivers take out of MG through that penultimate corner. Some deciding to hug up to the inside and just hug their way around that penultimate corner, and some trying to really open up the entry into that penultimate corner and to then carry that speed all the way through the final corner and down the straight here.
And Morgan's been able to carry that speed nicely. Definitely makes the look around Wislov. Oh, Wislov a little bit loose there through turn 1, but manages to hang on to it. I think what John Morgan is doing here is he is really harassing the mirrors of the 30 car, and he's trying to just get himself to so that he's the only thing that Wislov can see in the mirrors and maybe pressure him into a mistake. Roger now up another position there on Jordan. As you saw, he's just promoted himself up into the 6th position just a minute ago. But this is a good strategy for Morgan to try to maybe pressure his opponent here and the race leader into a mistake to just let him through.
Well, that's it. You know, if you keep the pressure up, force the mistakes from the driver in front, gets them a little bit worked up, a little bit hot under the collar, and then before you know it, they're running wide out of a corner, or they're just getting on the gas a little bit too early, locking up perhaps. Just little mistakes start creeping in, and that's when you pounce, as you see, locking up again. And look at that. Wislov takes that little bit of a tighter line there. You could see it on that shot, whereas Morgan takes more of a rounded corner, tries to really open up the entry to that one, and down the start-finish straight again. Lap traffic is ahead. Won't become a factor for a while yet, though.
The lap car that's on the road is Jerry Kerr up in the 18th position, so we'll have to see what that will mean, because they're definitely going to catch him before the end of the race. Might not be in front of the lap or two, but they are going to catch him, so we'll have to see here. So far, though, a lot of the lap traffic that I've been seeing kind of around the field has been doing a very good job on kind of just slowing down and getting out of the way of the guys, because usually they're not in battles with everybody else. It wouldn't surprise me if we saw a very similar situation here when the leaders get around, especially with how hard they're fighting each other as it is. That time it was Paul Stump that locked up into the hairpin, and that has cost him time up to the 3rd position driver of Stephen Greenwood. And you still got Kenneth Baldwin as well at the very tail end of this. Oh, heads up. Well, there's that lap car, Jerry Kerr, off the racetrack there through Siberia. That's one way to let the leaders through, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the ideal line, especially in these single-seaters. I mean, we saw with the incident with David Riley when he went off track. When he was coming back onto track, it was a good job that he had a little bit of pace there, because he could have got actually stuck on the hump coming onto the track, because it's these cars, as you can see, very low slung to the ground to try and get the best effect from that floor to give them some extra downforce. And look at this, John Morgan got a bit of a run, and he's looking keen now. He wants by Ragnar Wislov. It's not the end of the world for Wislov if he lets Morgan pass. Morgan to the inside of 1, and he is going to take the lead, but Wislov isn't going to give up without a fight. He's showing his nose, but Morgan has the position.
And Morgan's not done yet, though. He's still got to fend him off until he can really break that draft, and Wislov will be able to get a really big run here down, not just into the Honda hairpin, but also to some of the fast sections of the racetrack up through turn 7, and certainly onto the front straightaway, too. For now, the Wislov is being patient, sticking to the line here. I think at the moment now, the 30 car has just wanted to make sure that he doesn't make the look of the positions, but just stays in line to stay as close as possible as he can to Morgan so he can set himself up for the front straightaway again.
Morgan just seems to be absolutely dialed in, though, doesn't he? He's really got the bit between his teeth, and that's going to be, what, +4 positions now in the race. And it's a little bit of a problem when you've been leading all race. You've been cutting the hull in the air for the rest of the field, as Ragnar Wislov was. And again, there's those different lines as Wislov, you know, with him cutting the air there and really leading the way, leading the peloton effectively. He's been just feeling the effects of all that drag on his car, and now he can just sit there. He can wait. He doesn't need to rush. Stefan Rosgen. Oh, issues in the exit of MG. And Rosgen trying to keep out the way, trying to build up speed before he returns back to the track. Now, is that going to be contact, or is that maybe just getting on the throttle a little bit too hard? Let's find out, shall we?
He could have run wide as well, too deep on the brakes. He was all by himself, so down G. Oh, yep, misjudged the braking point, slid wide, and then just dipped 2 tires to the grass. That's all it took.
Oh, he was stuck.
Oh, yeah, so it's right. That's why he had to back up so far.
Yeah, he was stuck, so goes to show the point that I was making earlier about you've got to be careful going off. Speaking of going off, that's John Morgan, your race leader, out of Siberia. Oh, no, John. It's been going so well for him, and now all of a sudden, he's down to 5th place.
You know what happened there? Wislov did what Morgan couldn't. Pressured him into a mistake, as if you take a look at the Honda hairpin, he was trying to have a go at that race lead. Morgan got a great drive off around the outside line, but Wislov was definitely trying to find a way back past, and Morgan just got unsettled at the curb, and I think just barely clipped the curb and then just lost the back end all by himself. So unforced error, but definitely one that Wislov pressured him into.
Well, what it does mean is Wislov is now under pressure from Greenwood, because Greenwood to the head of your field, is he? Well, he is on the timing screen, running 2 wide through 1 into 2, but it's Wislov to the head of your field. Well, this one's heating up. Business is going to pick up here very shortly, because look who's just loitering around in the background there. Paul Stump, Kenneth Baldwin. They've not really been making any moves, have they? They've just been happy to sit behind, and well, it's biding the time, and Wislov wide through Honda. That's going to allow Greenwood ahead, but they're having to give each other space. Wislov gives a lot of space there, and Greenwood, very dangerous around that wide line. He able to keep on. Now Stump's putting the pressure on your former race leader, Wislov.
Trying to have the look around the outside of Siberia, but Stump wasn't able to quite get the move in there, but that has allowed Greenwood to get himself quite a good distance here, despite running super wide through Siberia. Oh, but he locks up into MG. That cost himself some valuable time back to Wislov, who is now right up his gearbox.
Yeah, this is tremendous. This is wonderful stuff. This is what we've been wanting to see all race, as the leaders come around down the start and finish straight. There goes Wislov, pulling alongside. Can he make the move? Get it stick? Oh, the thing is, he sort of hit a wall of air, and it's just sort of really maxed out. VMAX for him through turn 2, giving each other room, and Greenwood into the grass now. The latest one. Well, this lead seems to be a poison chalice for anyone but Ragnar Wislov.
Again, another unforced error there. Morgan just slid way too wide through turn 2, carried too much speed to the mid-corner. We'll take a ride on board with Greenwood here. And you can see he's still side by side with Wislov there. Was trying to fight back, but he tried to get the runner on the outside, dive it up, but he just went too fast. And all it takes is just 2 tires to get partially into the sand, and you're just going to find yourself careening off. And luckily, he managed to get it stopped in time for the sand trap, unlike we saw a couple drivers do earlier today who found themselves up in that barrier.
Yes, Estello being the first of those who we saw ended up in the tyre barrier. So he's dropped back about 7 seconds-ish of your race leader. So Wislov now, the next one that he can possibly make a mistake is Paul Stump. He's 6.5 tenths behind his Stump, heading on to the start and finish straight. Now, time is starting to run out here for these drivers. The Stump needs to arrive and drive here if he wants to get the lead, because he's caught up to about half a second. Well, I mean, I said, Nolan, that this series is action-packed. I didn't expect it to be this action-packed at the front.
And this is the closest battle still that we got on the racetrack, is between first through third here. About 1.5 seconds separates all 3 of those drivers. if you take a look on board with the gaps here, you see there is Wislav up in front, half a second back to Stubb, who is closing a little bit here, especially under break, and 4/10 behind Stubb is Baldwin, and then it's another 7 seconds back to Steve Greenwood, and even further back to John Morgan. Oh, look at Wislav there, taking a very wide line, but what he did there was he diamonded up the corner, kind of had a wide in, tight out kind of philosophy there for Siberia that last time by.
Yeah, that can actually work for you through Siberia, because it is quite a cambered corner. So yes, you end up on the little bit more dirtier line, but it gives you a great launch out the corner in towards the S's and Lukey Heights. Locked up brakes from in front, as in fact lap traffic is becoming a thing here. Hopefully they don't get it too involved. Your race leader, well, he's wanting the draft there from Robert Love. But here comes the draft for Paul Stump. Stump now to the left-hand side of the track. Can he make that move stick? As it goes side by side across the line down to 1. No move finished there for the time being, but this is tremendous stuff. Don't go too far wide there, Paul, or else you'll end up in the dirt. And we've seen what happens when you do that in these cars. But so far, these three now, Wislav, Stump and Baldwin, they're on for a really good result, and, well, you never know. Could be on for an even better result for if your name is Stump or Baldwin. But through Honda, we've only got about 4 laps, 3.5 laps remaining in this one, so time is starting to tick by for these drivers if they want to move forward here, Nolan.
I tell you what, that lap car of Robert Love really actually helped Wislav there with his positioning there as they were trying to get their way through. Because Wislav had to ease off a little bit to try to get the draft, that actually really checked up Paul Stump and neutralized the massive run he otherwise would have gotten. So that's one of the only reasons why Stump was not able to get past yet. Oh, hello, the 14 car of Riley has just gone off yet again. So Dave Riley, yet another mistake from the 14 machine. We'll take a quick look back at this one.
It's not his day.
Potential?
It's not his day at all here.
No.
It really hasn't been. As through 1, I bet this is going to be turn 2. He's got a car making moves. Oh, they give each other a little bit of a contact with the Ernie Cancio. That was. And yeah, that was damaged suspension.
Yeah. And left front tire was all hanging off there. It was just hanging on by the tire treads there, or the tethers? The tethers. That's the word I'm trying to find. But yeah, that's unfortunate though for Riley, who that's an effective race ender. As soon as one of those wheels gets bent out of line, that's it. I mean, you're done. It doesn't matter if the rest of your car's in pristine condition. Oh, luck from Wislav that time in the Honda hairpin. That sees Paul Stump once again close the gap down to 3/10 with just about 2.5 laps remaining now.
As they go through Siberia, and you can see that launch that Wislav gets out of Siberia. It's a really good run that he gets. In fact, Stump's coming under a little bit of pressure from Baldwin. You see, if you're Kenneth Baldwin, you wait until the penultimate lap to be starting making some moves here, because really he doesn't want to slow down Stump too much, or he ruins his own chances of getting a win here. So if those two fight now, it allows Wislav to pull away, and they're not doing that at the moment. Wislav is still within range here of your second place driver.
And Stump has a massive run here on Ragnar and Wislav. 2 laps remaining here for the first race at Phillip Island. Now Stump goes to the left side and the run down to turn number 1, trying to fight the outside line here. He's gonna have to tuck back in line here. There's just no way you can really make the pass around the outside, not in these cars. And so that leaves Wislav safe for at least a little while longer there. Catching more lap traffic though of JC Hay. He will be in the way potentially at the end of this lap.
As they're heading down to Honda then, Stump, he can see his opportunities going away. This is a potential overtaking opportunity down here, especially if Wislav makes little lockups like that. Oh, nearly got caught up behind JC Hay then. Now you want to take that wider line entry because it gives you a better exit out of this corner, up the hill, through the S's, and heading towards Lukey Heights. Undulating part of the circuit here. I really don't think of this circuit as being quite a steep circuit, but there's some tremendous undulations, especially this braking zone. It always catches people out because it's such a steep downhill braking zone. But here's the last opportunity for the slipstream here, although you can go for the slipstream at the end of the race as well, Nolan.
It depends on how close you are. If you're close enough, you can potentially still make it work. Stump will be able to close enough to potentially have another look. You're down for turn number 1, so they're going to cross the start-finish line. White flag in the air. Last time around the circuit, Stump backs off. He actually backs off and allows Whistle to get a bit more of a gap there. That's an interesting call there from the 54.
I think he realised early that he wasn't going to make it. Backed out, got back in line. Potentially give himself a run down to Honda, although he's dropped back a little bit here. He's half a second behind. That's not close enough. And in fact, Baldwin now is trying to make moves. Jack Turner and Johannes Jorrison are battling for position back in 6th place, I can tell you, on the timing screen. But time is running out now. If Stump can get a good second half of the lap here and get right onto the back of Ragnar Wisloff, he's got an opportunity of getting the drag down to the start and finish line. But as I say, time running out round here. He's been quicker through Lukey Heights, says Stump, all the second half of the race. Get this absolutely spot on. Get the run out the corner. He's not quite got it, it doesn't seem. That's going to allow Wisloff to have a gap there. He's got a 7/10 gap, so it's going to be Ragnar Wisloff then through the final corner. You can almost see the checkered flag. And it's going to be a race win, race 1 win here for Ragnar Wisloff in the 60 Plus Racing Adventures from Phillip Island. Paul Stump 2nd and Kenneth Baldwin in 3rd place. Back to Jack Turner, who's in 6th place. He's got a close battle with Johannes Jorrison as they're going to go across the line. Also further up the road, 2 back markers, JC Hay and Barry Hills, cross the line together. It's Jack Turner who does finish there and finishes in 6th place. Rest of your field are all working their way around, but hats off Ragnar Wisloff. He was under pressure all race, Nolan. That's a tremendous effort out there.
It absolutely was, and it was a well-held run from Wisloff too. Great job on defense. I think it's safe to say that his defensive game was definitely what won him that race. Just watching the last couple of cars start to round their way around the track. I believe this here is the 53 car of Franz Brink that we're watching, just crossing onto the start-finish line. He's running 13th place, and then of course comes Hellstrom just behind, then the final driver on the lead lap of Louis Cannell. Looks like the final driver though to cross the line is going to be G Moore though in the 20th place car. He's just now into the front straightaway and he is going to take it. And now the results are official.
They certainly are. So let's give you your official race results from race number 1 of the race here in 60 Plus Racing Adventures. And it is Ragnar Wisloff then who wins this one by 0.6 of a second. That doesn't tell you half of the story of this race. Paul Stump, he was in 4th, 5th position for the majority of that race and slowly moved forward in 2nd place. Kenneth Baldwin, another one who followed Paul there up into 3rd place. Steve Greenwood, one of those drivers who challenged for the lead partway through this race, he finishes in 4th. John Morgan, he was on such a charge to move up to 5th place, move up to the lead, but then that one mistake out of Siberia cost him a lot of time, finishes 12.5 seconds behind. Jack Turner just finishes ahead of Johannes Jorrison in 7th place. Randy Shoemake up to 8th place for the Texan, with Stefan Rosegem. Uncharacteristic mistake down at MG, down in 9th place. Steve O'Malley, good result for him, rounding out your top 10. Then Ernie Cancio, well, the biggest mover in the field, up to 11th place. Got involved with an incident towards the end there, though, but yeah, 11th place for him. Bob Kern, 12th, ahead of Franz Brink. Peter Hellstrom and Louis Cannell were the last drivers on the lead lap. Then drivers 1 lap down or more. JC Hay, Barry Hills, Douglas Beasley, Jerry Kerr and Gene Moore rounds out your top 20. Robert Love, 2 laps down then. Drivers who did not finish: David Riley, Bob Cohen, Joel Martin, Wally Millsby, Gerard Florison, Gary Bystrom. Oh, the fact that he lost connection with the server dropped him down to 27th. Russ Addy, Dev Donnelly, and David Costello. And Donald Poole did not take the race start here today. Nolan, that was breathtaking stuff out there. We've got to do it again for another race soon.
Oh yeah, another 22 laps still yet to come. So it's bound to be an incredibly exciting race. If this first race was anything to go by, that second race, it is only going to increase in the excitement levels from here.
Okay, well, we should be able to have a word with our race leader, and Nolan Rempel is standing by with our race winner, Ragnar Wisloff.
Hi there.
Well, hello, Mr. Wisloff, and congratulations on the victory here for the first race at Phillip Island out of 2 today. So, my goodness, though, what an absolutely exciting race from you, and you were under a lot of pressure, but you still managed to rise above all of it and take home a victory today.
Well, thank you very much. It certainly was exciting to be there, but it went well in the end, so I'm very happy with that.
The defensive game, I think it's safe to say, is what won you that race today. We kind of looked into that quite a bit about how defensive you were a majority of the time when you were up in the lead. So what is it like for you when you're down there on the track and just having to go left and right to keep those guys behind you, especially with how aggressive some guys like John Morgan were trying to get around you for the lead?
Well, I'm sweating buckets, and I have a pulse which is probably not commensurate with my age, but it's good fun. You know, John and Steve, Gary, Paul, they are all very clean racers, so we trust each other, and we try to keep clean lines, and mostly we manage.
Still 22 laps to go here, though. You got yourself the win, so you've gotten yourself the points that you're going to be taking, no doubt, at the end of the day. But do you think you can maybe go for a second victory here in the next race?
Well, I'll certainly try. Usually there's less pressure in the second race, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to give it a go and see what happens.
And we thank you so much for joining us here today, Mr. Wisloff. And, well, best of luck in the next race. We'll hopefully be talking to you again here shortly.
Thank you very much.
There we go then. That's your race winner, Ragnar Wisloff. And Nolan, we can sort of take breath here. Because we have got another race coming up, everybody, so you don't want to step aside. You want to stick with us. The second race will be coming up in about, looking at the clock, about 20 minutes time. So we've got time to be able to discuss the race here a little bit more detail. And I have to say, how gutting must it be if your name is Gary Bystrom, because he was battling for the lead throughout the early stage of the race, and then just whatever, whether it was the computer not loading up properly, you know, giving them a black screen, or internet connection problems, just losing out. There's no worse feeling, is there, than having some sort of technical issue when you're fighting for that lead?
Oh, I know. I know the feeling very well. It's definitely not a very pleasant feeling at all to be, you know, fighting up there for the lead. In fact, I remember a 24-hour race where the leader, who had a good lap, I think it was about a 15-minute lead or something like that, he ended up dropping out on the last lap of a 24-hour long race. That must have been gutty for him as well. But no doubt we could definitely see, though, that Bystrom will be able to fight back and potentially compete for a win again here in that second race. It's worth noting as well that Cancio had a very good race as well, up 18 positions where he started today. And now, granted, a lot of those spots, Paul, were from attrition, but hey, you still got to keep your nose clean to get some good points.
You certainly do. I mean, the butt kicker sponsored white and red car towards the rear of the field was just picking off people slowly, one by one, not getting involved in any sort of silly shenanigans. Well, the part towards the end where we saw him just get that little contact into turn 2. But still, you've got to be in it to get the results. And yeah, you might not be one of the fastest drivers out there, but keep that level of consistency and it gets you results here.
Consistency is very much key in a lot of these races, and when you gotta think long term as well. I mean, some drivers, they tend to think more lap to lap, and they think, I'm gonna go for this move, and whatever happens here, I'll think about that when I get to it. But you get some other drivers who tend to think more ahead, and they think, how will this affect the race if I go forward? And I think that's why we could see guys like Paul Stump kind of back off a bit when he realized he wouldn't have the run. I think he thought he might be able to set Whistler off for the front straightaway. Didn't quite play off that way, but it was still a great effort as well. And it shows you just how differently these guys can drive these cars as well, despite them all being on the same setup.
That's it. It's a very good point that you make about them all using the same setup. And if we look at the schedule here, so we are at round 6, which is here at Phillip Island. We've got another race coming up for you, as I say. So we will be giving you all 22 laps of that race. We'll be bringing you all of qualifying as well in that one, so do stick around because we will be bringing that up next. But these drivers, it's that second race now, because of the unique format that this series has. That second race now, Nolan, it's a lifesaver for those drivers who did get involved in incidents in race 1, like David Sostella, Dev Donnelly, Gary Bystrom, Russ Addy. You know, he, former champion, got involved in an incident. You know, it gives those drivers another opportunity out there to move forward in the field and get themselves some good points.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of why I really like this whole 2-race system, and that you just get the biggest points haul out of whichever position we finish up higher. Because for guys like Wisloff, they don't really need a second win, but it's fun to go for it anyway. But for guys like Bystrom, who might have had some significant issues in this first race, it is a great chance to go at it again, because that also means you're not going to find yourself in too bad of a position here. You do have a chance to go at it again. It's an opportunity that not a lot of series really offer, and it's great that these guys offer that sort of thing here.
Well, we will be giving you all of race 2 action coming up very shortly, so stick around, because coming next is race number 2 of the evening here in the 60 Plus Racing Adventures from Phillip Island. So make sure you keep it there, and we will be right back after this. We're back after the little break. Drivers are out just getting their iron once again in the 60 plus racing adventures here on RaceSpotTV. Week number 6 of season 18 here on, well, Phillip Island. Tremendous venue. Produced some fantastic racing up at the front of the first race. And we're going to do it all again for another 22 laps out there. Paul Smith and Nolan Rempel joining you here. We're glad to have you along. And Nolan, well, we saw how exciting race 1 was. Let's see what race 2 brings us.
The first race was definitely an incredibly thrilling show, and it was also a race that was filled with quite a bit of attrition in the opening stages. Now the question is, does that trend continue to carry over? These guys now have had 22 laps or slightly less to get themselves acquainted with the track and how it races in the race setting. So these guys should be able to be a bit cleaner this time around here, Paul, in those opening stages. Have got a few drivers that have backed out. We're down to just 28 cars for the second race compared to the 31 that we had at the initial start.
And look at those conditions now. Instead of it being completely clear skies, partly cloudy skies, 23 degrees track temperature, so 3 degrees cooler. So that means they're going to be able to push even harder on these cars when they're out there in the race. But this right now is qualifying, And, well, we will have a look at the man who won race 1. No, we're not interviewing him. It's the man from Scandinavia, Ragnar Wisloff. And, well, he's got the best opportunity. We're going to have a look at his qualifying time. And, Nolan, what we'll do with you is, why don't you give us a little bit of a guided tour around this Phillip Island circuit?
Well, as you can see right now, Winslow just making his way over the top here of turn number 11 and down for the flat out left-hander here for turn number 12. So, your lap is going to start here on the Gardner Straight all the way up into the 6th gear already before you hit that start-finish line, and the car should be bouncing just off the rev limiter by the time you'll reach the end of the straightaway for the Duhan corner at turn number 1. It's pretty flat out in these Indy Pro 2000s as well. First braking zone is with the Southern Loop, turn 2, long 180-degree left-hander swings you all the way around, up and over a small rise as well. That's the one place you got to be careful of running wide. It's going to be a flat-out turn 3 for Stoner Corner. Then the first really hard braking zone down for the Honda hairpin, braking at just past the 100-meter braking boards, and a hard right-hand turn as well for these drivers down to the 2nd gear before you flick it up. Flat out right-hand king for turn 5. Turn 6 at Siberia. Bank corner. Wislov doing a great job trying to diamond off the corner to enter wide, exit tight. Turn 7, another one of those flat-out left-hand kings before you go up through Hayshed of turn 8. Another flat-out right-hander. A lot of flat-out turns in the Indy Pro 2000 PM18s. Now, this is the biggest elevation change you got in the entire course through Lukey Heights. Then a very hard braking zone into MG. You can see the right front tire lock it up as it leaves the racing surface just for a brief moment. Turn 11 now, the second to last corner on the track. And then, of course, once again, the flat-out turn 12 sees you around a full lap of the Phillip Island circuit. Here, Paul.
Certainly we are. As Raceloff comes across the line, he sets himself at 1 minute 25.5. It's only good enough for 2nd place at the moment here for Wislov. So, John Morgan is currently your pole sitter, but Gary Bystrom, the man who we saw drop out of race number 1 due to technical issues, he's out there and he's pushing on. He wants pole position. And, wow, you can see how close those times are. Paul Stump with a 1 minute 25.2, but it's the 2nd lap here, Nolan, where those tyres really do come into the run. They've really got them up to pressure and to temperature.
And it's, like you said, it's a very, very tight qualifying at the top. The top 3 separated by less than 1/10 of a second here as we watch Bystrom now. The driver who was battling for the lead for a good portion of the first part of race 1. Before, of course, he found himself with technical issues. He's sitting 3rd place, about 76 thousandths of a second behind John Morgan, who currently sits on pole position. Wislov a good 0.3 of a second off. Greenwood now sets his time. That puts him up into the top 5 and dumps Wislov out of the top 5. But we continue to watch Bystrom's lap. Will this be good enough to potentially go for pole position here? The flat-out left-hand corner once again. Down to the front straightaway. Will this be enough for the 64 car to punch his ticket onto the front row? Jack Turner goes fastest by about 0.07 of a second. A 1:25.409. Not good enough to improve by much for Bystrom.
Yeah, but Wislov then to the top of your standings with a 25.0. That's an impressive lap time from Ragnar. Stumps dropping down. Stefan Rosjan, 4th place, so good qualifying for him. Bob Kern, we haven't seen much of him today. He's out there in the number 6. Crossed the line for his first lap time, a 1:32.0. In fact, I think he did actually invalidate his lap. So, he's coming through. That was his outlap. Well, it's a quick outlap, is that? If that's the case, because Jared Florison has got a 34.9 as his 32.8 as his best lap. So, pretty quick outlap then, if that's the case.
It's a very quick outlap indeed for these guys. I mean, I'm looking at the timer now, and it's showing that he's on his first official time lap here, so he's leaving this one late to qualify. I think he wanted to kind of see where things are standing at the moment, but Kern a little bit wide there to the Honda hairpin. Not the best of runs for him there through turn number 5, but it is the first lap out of 2, so I think he might be playing this one safe. And that's always a good strategy to do here, Paul. It's always a good strategy to kind of play the first lap a bit safer than you normally would. Get yourself at least 1 lap on the boards in general, then use the second lap as your push.
Yeah, get yourself a banker lap. Absolutely. Don't leave it too late that you can't finish your second lap, but Bob has not got that to worry about. He's got plenty of time out there. Of course, these drivers are limited to the amount of laps that they can do in qualifying. Just the 2 laps in qualifying. Oh, back end just stepping out a little bit there through the final corner. And Kern comes across the line. It's not going to be a top 5. Get his lap time 1:26.7. That's 19th at the moment, but he does have that 1 more lap to go here.
Still 1 lap to go, and it's not the worst of opening laps either. It's sitting in the 19th place right now. There have been times further down the order, most notably Gerard Florissant's lap, a solid 7.9 seconds down from your overall race leader. So I think Florissant might have also been playing too careful there for his lap. For Kern, though, locks up in a Honda. That is going to really hamper his ability to go for a big flyer here.
Well, Jim Moore, he's just on the end of his first lap as well. So we're just catching him across the line. Get his first lap time on the board, 27.6. That puts him in 21st place for the moment. But he is carrying on for his second flying lap, and he does have the time there.
Bob Kern will not have the time. He lost the back end of his car right on the exit of Siberia. Got a couple of wheels onto the curb and in fact onto the grass, and that has sent him spinning around. So Bob Kern's qualifying comes to an unfortunate end. He's still out there running the laps. I think he's just getting a little bit more practice in, and hey, why not? It's you got the time to go for some practice. You're not losing anything by it, so use the time that you got left for qualifying. And there you see the 6th car taking a slide as well. Oh, this is the replay here for Bob Kern. Excuse me.
Yeah, so on the power, onto the curb and the grass. As soon as you do that, it's game over. That's the end of your qualifying time there.
Gosh, it's just amazing the fall off on either side of the racetrack here and how steep it is on the grass. You saw even with how little he flew off, yet how close he was just trying to get back on because of how steep that grass was. He nearly hit the embankment there on the left side of the racetrack. It's a very unique characteristic of Phillip Island, isn't it? This track really does not have a whole lot of gravel trap to it. I say that as we're staring at a face full of gravel.
Yes, that is true. Gene Moore, he's finishing off his second flying lap here, and he's going to come across the line. This is going to be an improvement. 27.2. It's an improvement in time, but not in place here for Gene. So he finds himself down there. We've got a minute remaining here. Let's remind ourselves then of the position the championship found itself coming into this week. We saw race 1, Ragnar Wislov get the race win. John Morgan, Stephen Greenwood had those issues. Paul Stump got a really good result in second place. He'll be wanting to go one step further up the podium. But Gary Bystrom, I think he's a dark horse for this second race here.
A dark horse indeed. It could be one of those interesting situations. I mean, this is the tail end here of the first half of the season, and we're not going to be back with these guys until the season finale. So there's a lot of time yet for this championship to really change it up. It's still very, very tight. I mean, just 4 points separating first to third, only 8 points, really, or 6 points from first down to fourth. So it is an incredibly tight championship, and those are all the drivers that we see, or that we saw running up there in the top 4 in the last race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even like I say, Gary Bystrom was involved in that until his technical issues. So, yeah, top 5, they're all pretty close. But we're getting ready for the start of this next race. So let's bring you your starting grid. And it is Ragnar Wislov then, just under 1/10 of a second ahead of Jack Turner on row number 1. Row 2, John Morgan, he'll be hoping for a better result this time. With Stefan Roosjen, had issues in race 1, he'll be looking for a good podium or even a race win in this one. Steve Greenwood and Paul Stump as well, rounding out row number 3. Row 4, Gary Bystrom and Russ Addy. He'll be desperate for a good result here after DNFing race number 1. Bruce Poole and Barry Hills on row number 5, with Bob Cohen and Randy Shoemaker on row number 6. And then row 7 is rounded out by Douglas Beasley and David Riley.
Michael Bailey sits in the 15th position with Gerhardus Jorson in the 16th position. Lewis Cannell in 17th with Dev Donnelly in 18th. Rounding out the top 20 on row 10 is going to be Bob Kern and Peter Hallstrom. G Moore is in the 21st position with Jerry Kerr in 22nd. JC Hayes in 23rd. Joel Martin sits 24th. In row number 13, I believe this is, Jared Flores in the 25th. Donald Poole in 26th. Rounding out a 28-car field and drivers outside of times is Robert Love and Ernie Cancio. Cancio did move up the most amount of spots in the first race today, moved up 18 positions before he started on the docket that race. So he is one driver to watch, potentially be a contender for a top 10 position by the end of this one, if he can put on a similar performance.
Yeah, he really could be in for a shout. And every car in this race, so it's good to see Donald Poole being able to take to the grid in this second race. But it is Ragnar Wisloff who finds himself on pole position, leading these cars around. Well, it's almost deja vu with him front of it. So, getting around there as they head on through turn 2 in towards turn 3. Brilliant track here. And these drivers will be able to get themselves another 22 laps, either really consolidate the position that they were in when they finished race 1, or be able to push on and get themselves a really good result in race number 2 here today after maybe getting involved in incidents here, Nolan. For people like Addy and Russ, Jen, this is about, and Gary Bystrom to a degree, this is about getting yourself a good result now because they need the points.
Wisloff, of course, a driver who will not be needing to worry about points. He's already gotten the most amount of points he can get out of the day by winning the opening race, so he is in prime position today. He said he could potentially go for a second back-to-back victory here. Of course, he won't get points from it, but hey, it's one more win that you can add to your resume there, and he's sitting on pole position, so he is in the prime position to get that done.
And of course, if you win the race, nobody else can, so it guarantees you the best result for the event and for the week. So, heading in towards MG. Why you'd call your corner after a disappointing car brand from the UK, well, I don't know, but that's a joke, that is, by the way. That's a very British joke, is that. But, yeah, here we go then. Start of the race. Rolling start, as always, here. Getting onto the power, waiting patiently. Now he's going to be flat out on corner exit. We're going to see the green flag. Here for 22 laps of racing once again. Across the line they go. Down the start and finish straight. Hopefully we could keep everything clean through turn 1. Big crash.
Hills is off and almost up and over, way into the sand, along with them 2 other cars here, Paul. There were 3 wide in turn 1 with Bob Cohn and Bruce Poole, and the 57 car nearly went up and over.
We'll just caught the end of that there. We'll try and get you that a little bit further back. Here we go then. Bob Cohen, who was 3 wide down to turn 1. That very rarely goes well. The gap was closing up. Oh, dearie me. And the 3 cars, they are done and dusted. I can tell you there's been incidents further on as well. But right now, at the front of your field is Wisloff. We've had Gerhardus Jorison and Louis Canal are out of the race as well here. Although there is a fast repair, 2 fast repairs available to the drivers here. So they can get themselves repaired and still try and get themselves a finish here. But towards the end of lap 1, it is Ragnar Wisloff in first place, John Morgan second ahead of Jack Turner, Stefan Rosgen, Steve Greenwood and Paul Stump, with Russ Addy and Gary Bystrom right there. Although there's a car, that was Greenwood. almost into the wall. Big heart in mouth moment for him. We'll try and get a look at that one, because that is not how you exit the final corner here. Here we are then, around the corner. And what we're going to see, cold tyres, don't forget, you're not up to temperature fully yet as he run wide.
It's Paul Stamp, actually.
It's Paul
Stump, it appears, the guy right behind him.
Yeah, so we'll have to just rewind just a little bit more. Yes, a Stump. Here we are, we're on board with Stump. And yeah, back end just slides out. My goodness, that was close to the wall.
Oh, talk about needing to change the trousers after that one. Goodness gracious. Paul Stump just barely scraped away from that one by the skin of his teeth. He swapped positions as well with Russ at the start of the lap. Looks like Jack Turner's just dropped a spot as well. Just dropped out of the podium positions there as Stefan Rosjan has moved himself up into the third position. Like you said, Rosjan could very well be a guy to look out for. Look at that. He's up to the podium positions already.
Yeah, as they go through the penultimate corner then. Into the final corner, John Morgan is with your race leader. We saw how quick Morgan was in race 1. Be interested to see how he gets on in race 2. Now there is traffic coming off of pit road. That's the 697 of Louis Canal. Hopefully he doesn't get involved with the race leaders. As David Riley's had enough issue out there. He's running slowly, so something's happened for David. As we'll have a look back then. And Riley, is this going to be just running wide? Yes, it is.
Clipping those two tires into the grass. That sends him sliding across to the opposite end. And then, gets on the power bit aggressively and almost comes back onto the track right in front of other guys just up the road. Luckily, that didn't result in something a lot bigger than it ended up being. But that's the 60. Is that the 89 car? JC Hay that's now off the track in the 20th position, dropping down the order, now down to 21st here. Will likely drop another one here to 22nd as well as the 44 blitzes by. That looked to me, Paul, like it might have just been another case of running a bit too wide in the middle part of turn 2.
Well, look at that. Those are the drivers that are further back. They're just going through turn 2. Meanwhile, the leaders are heading towards the end of the lap here. So a little bit of a field spread out there in this second race as they go through that final corner once again. What can we see from these drivers? Heading across the start and finish straight across the line for another lap in the books. Lap number 4 is now started. Wisloff decided to go a little bit defensive, but then gets back online into turn 1 because he realised that Morgan wasn't going to make the move. And look at who is rocking up onto the scene. Like Stefan Rosjan.
And Rosjan is doing a great job at trying to hang on to this train here, and he is definitely a huge contender here for this victory here if he manages to stay nice and close to these guys. Morgan was also a serious contender for the win as well. If you don't forget, he had actually made the pass around Wislov in this very corner in Siberia, and then unfortunately just dipped 2 tires into the grass, centered around, and he just never managed to recover, didn't have the time to do so. But if he avoids making that mistake again, could very well find himself right back up in it and in the lead.
Certainly could. There is Morgan then. Through Lukey Heights, plunged downhill in towards MG. Such a tricky corner to get right there. Through the right, then the left. The front 3 are a little bit broken away. Steve Greenwood, he's going to be on the very edge of the slipstream if he is getting any slipstream at all. And in fact, he's dropping back. So I think this front 3 now, they're going to be waltzing away from Greenwood. And that's going to be Morgan to the inside towards turn 1. And Wisloff decides, do you know what? You can have that.
That was an opportunistic move from Morgan, to say the very least. Wislov made that look just as Morgan went for it. And Morgan was aggressive. He decided to keep his foot in it, and that means that now John Morgan is back to the point. Now Morgan's just got to avoid making the same mistake that he made the last time he was up here in this position, which saw him tumbling down out of the race lead and almost out of the top 5 as well. So far, though, he is looking very clean Jack Turner as well has had a bit of struggles here on this opening lap here because he was in 5th place at the top of the lap. He is down, I believe, though, to about 9th place at the moment.
Currently 8th is showing, so having issues, and he's not keeping up with Gary Bystrom either, so something going on for Jack Turner, but he has got a 3 1/4 second lead over Randy Shoemake, who is battling it out with Douglas Beasley. There he is. And Randy, always good to chat to Randy whenever we get the chance. He's a very, very hard competitor and a very, very fair competitor as well, it must be said. He's a tremendous talent, and always good to have him in the races here. But he's coming under increasing pressure from Douglas Beasley. Looking further up, Paul Stump and Russ Addy are battling for 5th place. We'll just keep an eye on this battle because Beasley's pulling out of the slipstream, heading into turn 1, and there he goes, 9th place.
9th place indeed there. Oh, and the 63 car has gone off. That's Rosjan! That's Stefan Rosjan, the guy that was just running up in the 3rd position, now off the track at turn number 2, right at the exit. He was looking set to be in a very good position to take the win, and well, not anymore. He's got a lot of work to do now if he wants to catch back up. So take a ride on board with Rosjan. We'll see here what caused this one.
We dipped a tyre wide there, and he's just, yeah, he's on the dirty line. He's off into the kitty litter. And, well, he's lost an absolute ton of time there. And he's down to 12th place in this race now. He'll be absolutely gutted about that because he'll have been wanting a good race. We've got a big issue down at Honda. Florison, Kerr and Martin all off.
There's debris all over the track, too. There's a front wing sitting right in the middle of the racing line, so not sure what happened here. We'll take a ride. This is with Jerry Kerr here. We're watching this here. Down to the Honda. He's got a couple of guys right behind him. It's just a misjudge of a braking point. Oh,
he's
trying
run wide.
Oh, right there.
And then gets caught with one. Oh, and Martin. Oh, very little that Martin could do there. Once you're committed to that line, then you are, well, you're done. You're out there. And, yeah, they're headed onto pit
heads up.
road.
Bystrom's also, sorry to cut you off here, Paul. Bystrom's just had a big off as well at turn 2. So, more struggles for a guy that we thought might be good to win.
Well, does anybody want to actually finish this race in 1st place apart from Wislaw and Morgan? Oh my goodness! It seems to be that every time we go to a replay, something happens here in this 2nd race. Let's have a look. Is it going to be that classic 2nd corner issue that we've been seeing? It was almost, he had to take avoiding action there, I believe, on Stump. And then he just finds himself way out west, nowhere to go, apart from the grass and the gravel trap.
On top of all of that, Wislaw has managed to really close in John Morgan again for the overall race lead just on the exit of MG there. Wislaw is continuing to hug it tight through turn 11 while Morgan is hugging it tight on the exit of MG and then swinging it back in for 11. Now, though, it's Morgan who's on the back foot with the draft here. Wislaw's got enough of a draft here. He could have that look at the turn 1 if he really wants it.
He's half looking at it. He's got a good draft. Is he going to make the move into 1? Side by side, and yes, they are. Stump and Addy as well. In the background, a shot. There you go. Stump ahead of Addy. So those two are having a good scrap out there on track. That's for 4th and 5th place. But your race leaders changed positions. So too as 4th and 5th. And behind them, Beasley, Shoemake and Bailey are all together as well. So there's some good battles out there on track in this 2nd race. I mean, oh, Morgan, no, Morgan, on the power, and around he goes.
Just proving the point. It seems like nobody really wants to lead this one, and that means that Wislaw, who has already broken the track from Greenwood, great position to just run away with the lead here. And you saw all of that as well, Paul. Just too much throttle on the exit again.
Closes in. Does he clip a curb? He does. But it's just on the throttle, on the exit of the corner. Track temperature is a little bit cooler, don't forget, in this 2nd race. Partly cloudy sky. We have seen cloud cover come into play here. maybe the driver's just getting caught out by the slightly cooler conditions. Well, the track has heated up a little bit, up to 26 degrees compared to qualifying, but it's still just that little bit cooler than race number 1.
And now Paul Stelp and Rossati once again switching spots through turn number 1. This time it's Paul Stelp now on the back foot. Now this battle has progressed upwards to the last spot on the podium. Stump really tried to send it through the middle of turn 2 there to try to get back up the inside of Addy. That only cost him a bit of time though, up to the 111.
Speaking of time, look at this for your race lead. Just 0.3 of a second. Wisloff was 0.6 of a second slower on that last lap compared to Steve Greenwood. So mistakes coming into play here, and Greenwood now is a championship contender. He can sniff a victory here today at Phillip Island, although given how cursed this lead battle seems to be, I'll be amazed to see him finish this race at this race, as I just give him the commentator's curse right now. But down into MG, a little bit of a puff of smoke from Wisloff in front. But this is Greenwood's best opportunity so far. Plenty of time remaining in this race though. We're only going to be starting lap 10. You can see how much Wisloff's car is just moving about there. And down the start and finish straight. And my goodness, that slipstream is strong, isn't it? Down the straight. And that's Greenwood to the head of your field.
Oh, Wisloff a bit sideways on the exit of turn, or on the entry of turn 1, right around the outside, but he does manage to get things sorted. So Wisloff is going to lose out the race lead. Steve Greenwood, the point for the first time all day. He was not up at first in race 1, but he was certainly looking for it potentially in the closing laps. Now he's up to the front here. And now we take a look back at one of the other battles here. This is a battle just on the cusp of the top 10. Donald Poole currently in the midst of a big battle here with Randy Shoemake in 9th. He's got Poole is in, of course, 10th with Stefan Rosted in 11th, just behind, trying to find his way back up. Now Poole deep around the outside there of Randy Shoemake, trying to make up a spot for 9th.
Poole is a tremendous driver in this Pro Mazda Pro Indy 2000. Well, it's not the 2000, it's the Pro Indy. And, well, Poole is working his way past, is he? Well, Shoemake and Poole still side by side. And you've got Stefan Rosjan, of course, recovering from his mistake into turn 2. And that means that he's trying to move forward as well. Poole's looking to the inside, showing a nose, causes a mistake from Shoemake to goes deep. But Shoemake has that inside line, corner exit. Squeeze a little bit. No, they're giving each other plenty of space here. Now what Poole can do is get into the slipstream here, although he backed out, and here comes, well, Stefan Rosjen thinking, well, you're going to back out, I'm going to go for it. And behind them all, it's Gary Bystrom as well, so he's getting involved in this one. These are two drivers in Rosjen and Poole who had an opportunity to take the lead early on in this race. Speaking of the lead, Wisloff is back there.
And Wisloff managed to get back to the point with the draft all the way down the front straightaway. Now, I want to point something out. How the heck did Roshan get all the way back to 11th? He was only down to 6th at the end of his mistake, so he must have had some other issue at some point there that caused him to drop down outside the top 10, because he was down as far as 12th place here. So, potentially another mistake. Oh, and that time Shoemake runs wide.
Yeah, a little lock up there. That cost him 2 spots, so that allows Rosjan and Poole to go through. Okay, Bystrom is going to be the next one looking at that one. But look at the race lead. Greenwood all over the back of your race leader through Lukey Heights. He means business here today, doesn't he? As well, that's Robert Love who was getting out the way of the 2 race leaders. So they head on through. And that actually cost Greenwood a little bit of time there, I feel.
The gap is up to 0.8 of a second now, so it'll be a little bit here before Greenwood will be able to properly challenge Wisloff again, assuming he can still get close enough that they can properly battle with each other. And that leaves out of 4th and 3rd, but even more importantly, the battle for 9th place at the moment with Gary Bystrom just behind, because that is still nice and close. Bystrom now looking to the left side as Shoemake defends down to the left. This is now the battle for 11th and 12th. Shoemake backs out and allows Bystrom to have the move. Shoemake not wanting to go side by side into turn 1 here.
I think he realised, that retreat is sometimes the best part of Valor, and realised that was the best way of committing to a good result overall in the race. You sometimes have to weigh that up. You think the long game and think, oh, I could really defend that hard, but we could end up tangling wheels, and before you know it, that's the end of your race. So, it's Rosgen very deep into Honda. So these are 3 drivers coming through from the back. Rosgen after his issue at turn number 2. Donald Poole, who actually started at the back of your field, and Gary Bystrom, who of course had an incident himself through turn number 2. So these drivers all working their way through. Their next target is Michael Bailey up in 8th place. They did drop back a little bit from him, but they're now looking forward. Rosgen's off again. And can he keep it out the way of everybody? Yes, he can.
Robert Love also goes off the track there just to kind of let cars through. That was all a very, very hairy situation there. Bruce Poole is now kind of in the thick of things here. Oh, battle again for the race lead. This time side by side through turn number 1. And looks like Wislov will be able to hang on to that one for now. Rosgen, meanwhile, off again in the final corner, but he's managed to get that one sorted. But on board with Greenwood here, he's trying to run down Wislov. This is the battle for the race lead once again, with now just 10 laps left to go in the run of the Honda here. Can Greenwood have a look here into the Honda hairpin? Decides to back out of that one. Probably a wise move there when you've still got, 10 to go, but big lock up there for Wislov.
Yeah, Wislov, he said in his interview in the break there that he was sweating buckets from race 1 with the pressure he was under. Well, he's coming under intense pressure here as they get past lap traffic. That was the 95 car of Dev Donnelly. This is a section of track where we saw in race 1 how different drivers were able to get a better run compared to Wislov through Lukey Heights and to put the challenge on him. But Wislov, look at him, just gets a little bit of a gap. There's different lines through that penultimate corner, and then flat out, absolutely foot to the, I was going to say the Axminster, but not in these cars, as they head on down the straight, pulling out to the left-hand side. Driver's left. Steve Greenwood trying to use that overspeed. It's not quite working for him. He needs to do something different, I feel. Although he's held the outside line. That's the inside for turn number 2. They keep each other some space. Now, Wislov can get the run off of the corner, taking that wider line out of the corner. So he's on the power a little bit earlier. He's got the opportunity now down into Honda. Look at this. Wislov to the inside. And still a lot of space being given by the two of them. Great respectful driving at the front of your field, but this is hard. This is hard fought battling for your race lead. And it's Greenwood to the front of the field.
Still not secure, though. Wislov could still have a run here if he could get a good drive up here through Hayshed. Don't think he's going to go for it. I think he might have to wait around here for the front straightaway once again. He definitely does not want to be in front super close. And in fact, look at that there. He backs off a bit in the run of the Lukey Heights. And I think now he's setting up Greenwood for the front straightaway. So as we throw ourselves through MG, it's going to be 8 laps to go this next time by here at the line. And you can see already Wislov is so close. Steve Greenwood is going to be a sitting duck here for Wislov, who is going to be able to make a great drive off the final corner here. Look at how close he is. A pass here, you would honestly be nuts not to go for one.
Well, there they go. Side by side, down towards 1. Absolutely brilliant, epic stuff between these two. Switching positions back and forth, lap after lap between the two of them. Look at Greenwood now, trying to get the run out of turn 2, but he's run a little bit too wide. He wasn't able to get to the apex, and that means that he is running there. Donald Poole, he's got a front wing missing. Some contact has happened to him, and he's off into the rough. You're going to need a pitching wedge to get out of that one, Donald.
He was in the midst of a battle with Bystrom here for the 9th and 10th positions here. So we'll take a look at this here. This is down the front straightaway. That's Poole in the green car just in the back end. That's Bystrom up in front, making the look to the left. And
oh dear.
Big crash there. It almost flipped high side for Poole.
We'll have a look as well. I'm trying to get Bystrom's point of view of that one as well. So we'll have a look from Bystrom then. You can see the run that Poole gets with the slipstream. Jack Turner has had an issue out there. He's onto pit road now. He's had to take the tow. And then, oh, they just come together down the straight. Wow.
Destroyed.
Let's find out what's
just
happened.
launched.
And meanwhile, Jack Turner, he got into the back of somebody as well. Oh, what is going on out there? Nobody wants to finish this race, it seems.
And in both incidents, it's just a case of the car just launching up and over the back wheel of another, or in this some cases the front wheel of another. And there goes one car way off into the grass, and there goes Turner off into the grass as well at Honda. And I think he just towed it from there. I want to point out as well that there was another car that I think has taken it down to pit road apart from those guys, but I think he has since retired from this one. It might have been Donald Poole, or sorry, Dev Donnelly, but we'll have to
I think it was Donnelly,
the battle for the lead.
Yeah, I think it was
battle for the lead.
Yeah, battle for the lead is going on. Wisloff is back there. Look away at your peril here as to what's going on out there. And, well, these two, they'll carry on fighting to the end, you can guarantee that. The rest of your field still pretty close between Stump and Addy, but they're too far behind to really take advantage of anything that happens between these two, any fighting that happens between these two. So this is why maybe these two are feeling a bit more confident to make those fighting moves, those hard, aggressive moves, because yes, you may be slowing each other down, but you've got a comfortable gap between yourselves and third place of Addy and Stump. And look at that, Wisloff deciding to take a defensive line, so Greenwood having to back out of that one this time.
Greenwood thought about moving back to the left, but eventually just braked right before he could run over the gearbox of Ragnar Wisloff there. Probably a wise move from Greenwood. I think at this point, they're starting to think a little bit more long-term in some regards, trying to make sure they can at least make it to the end of this race. Now, again, Wisloff does not need to worry about really going for a race win because he's already gotten the points from his win in the first race today. Big dive there from Greenwood, nearly wipes out Wisloff. But back to what I was saying, the thing is, Wisloff at this point is just trying to make sure he stays in first, so that way nobody else can also get first place points and gain as much as he has.
And of course, when you're fighting for a championship with the 555 of Greenwood, you want to deny Greenwood the opportunity of getting those maximum points here in this second race. So as we stay on board with Greenwood, he's not going to make any looks. You can make a move down to MG if you're really brave, but you basically have to have every wheel all locked up and hope that the other guy cooperates with you. Out that penultimate corner once again, through the final corner. These two still together. This is tremendous stuff between these two. Great respectful racing. That's what we really do love to see here in the 60 Plus Racing Adventures on RaceSpotTV. And Greenwood to the outside. Can he make that move stick? Oh, carried tremendous speed. And I think Wisloff realised that that was a losing cause. Backed out of it slightly to try and get the run out of turn 2 here, Nolan.
And in the midst of all of that as well, John Morgan had a massive save at the entry to Lukey Heights and somehow kept it onto the track. Had a very close call with JC Hay of a lapped car, but here comes Wisloff maybe trying to fight back. Oh, looks like Kern has had another struggle there. The 6th car, you saw him briefly off track for a moment, so take a look at that one. And this is, I think, in the run
down to MG. Yeah, this is towards MG.
So down towards MG, over the hill, down the hill. Was it just too deep on the brakes again? Oh, definitely. Locks it up, swings it wide. Back end comes around. Very, very easy mistake to make. It's the most common mistake that we've seen there all day long.
Nice recovery, though.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Nice recovery. It's a nice recovery as well for Morgan, too, because like I said, JC Hay was starting to move across the track, and that kind of scared Morgan off into the grass. He swung the car almost 90 degrees sideways to the track and managed to get it back before he lost too much time. So, great run for him, but they're still close for that race lead as well.
Well, it's not on this time, I don't feel, as Wisloff has actually dropped back a little bit from Greenwood. Greenwood will be hoping to keep that. Meanwhile, behind them, Addy and Stump battling it out for 3rd place. This is great stuff. Tremendous racing here, and I'm glad you're all here to watch it, because this is what you get week on week from 60 Plus Racing Adventures. Bring you 3 rounds of the championship each season, and well, they head on through the left-hander in towards Honda, and Stump deciding, you know what, I'm backing out of that one. I'm not making the move there. Got plenty of time still in this race. 4 to go here in this one, so still opportunities to be had out there. It's that battle for first and that battle for third are your closest battles out there on track, Nolan.
Battles all over the place for positions on the podium, and it looks like the battle for third and fourth is starting to break up as well. Now about 0.8 of a second separating them. Only half a second, though, between Greenwood and Wisloff, and I think Greenwood might have gotten a little bit unsettled that last time by, just on the exit of MG. Certainly unsettled through turn 11, loses a bit more time there, about another half of a tenth. So I don't think it'll be on this time around either, just like it was in the last lap, but it's definitely still nice and close. Now 3 laps remaining. Wisloff goes, or Greenwood goes big on the defense. Wisloff is trying to follow to get the speed down, and doesn't manage to go for it in 1.
Yeah, he was very much weaving down the straight. I think pushing the limits a little bit in terms of what really is fair. But out of turn number 2, he's looking forward in Wisloff. He's not desperate to get the win, though. That's the thing. So he will certainly make some moves and will make an attempt to get the lead back and try and win this race, but it won't be an absolute desperation effort from him here today because he doesn't need that win. He's already got that win in the bag.
And it was a very hard-fought win for him as well. I mean, he had to really work for that win in the opening rounds. I mean, you saw Greenwood and Stump, definitely they were making him work for it, and they did not let him get off easy, for sure. But now it's his turn to make Greenwood work for his win, and Greenwood has certainly been working for his win. He's been working for it all day long. Once again, Cancio, the biggest... Oh, look out! No! Wisloff loses the back end! There it is, the commentator's curse. Wisloff will drop from second to third to fourth. Oh, dear. And that will effectively see the end of Wisloff's run for the race lead, and that has basically secured this one for Greenwood if he can keep it on the track.
That's easier said than done. We've seen this all the way through, not just this racer, but the previous race as well. Here we go. It's that tighter line. Getting on the power, and the back end just goes away from him. Does well to keep it out the way of Addy and Stump. Tried to come on in the middle of the corner, the final corner ahead of Stump, but wasn't able to do so. But it does mean that he's got the slipstream of Paul Stump and Russ Addy now to work with, so he's not out the woods in terms of a podium position. And he'll be kicking himself over that little mistake. You can see, as you mentioned there, biggest gainers and losers out there. And, well, Ernie Cancio, he always seems to do it here today at Phillip Island. Slow and steady, gets you 17 positions.
And it's actually going to get him more points this time around than it did the last one. It's still 1 position less, but because there's 4 fewer cars, he still is going to be up further than where he finished in the last race. Big lock up there last time for both Addy and for Stump. Yeah, here's the good thing as well for Wisloff. He's already got the win in the bag, so he doesn't need to kick himself too much. He's already got the points. He's just battling at this point to try to make sure other guys can't get as much points as he can. Obviously, Greenwood is going to be able to get that, but he can still take a couple of points away here from Addy and Stump.
Well, we're starting the final lap, and we've got the best seat in the house to see the battle for second place. Addy and Stump into 1. Stump was looking outside. Here comes Wisloff, but backs out of it into 2. 2 different lines being taken by the drivers through turn number 2. Onto the power, use the slipstream. Through 3. Absolutely flat out. No quarter asked, none given. Here comes Wisloff to the inside of Honda. Space given. And that's going to be Stump. Oh, he's still there though, Stump. He could get that 3rd place back through Siberia. We've seen how good Wisloff is right there. Oh, contact between the 2 of them. Up and over. Well, that's Wisloff's day pretty much done. Stump, he'll have damage to that car. Oh my goodness, this has been a drama-filled race. But one driver who hasn't had any drama to deal with here is just got to make it through 2 more corners. And it will be Steve Greenwood coming through to take victory in the second race of the night in the 60 plus racing adventures. There he is across the line. He is your winner. Second place is going to go to Rosadi with Paul Stump in third place in the end. They did it again, Nolan. You just never knew who was going to be the winner until the very end.
And again, the good news for Wislov, it's not good news per se, it's a silver lining. He already had the points for a win, so not too much lost in the way of his. It's a bit of lost score, definitely might be some hurt feelings, but apart from that, not a lot of time lost at all. So thankfully for Wislov, he's already gotten the points he needs. He's going to be matched, though, with the points gained in this race with Steve Greenwood, and that is the part where it could mean something big.
Well, this battle isn't over yet. Bob Kern looking to get the slipstream at the final corner. He's getting squeezed onto the grass there. Oh, he's keeping his foot in it there. Oh, Bob Kern giving it the big send at the end. He won't be happy with the little squeeze from Peter Hallstrom. But, well, when you take that wide line through the final corner there, that's always going to be the case there, isn't it?
It absolutely will be. Last driver on the grid to finish up is Jerry Kerr. Just now crosses the line, and that means every single driver has crossed the line, and this race and event is official.
So it is Steve Greenwood then. 5 seconds. Well, that does not show how close that race lead was all the way through. But Steve Greenwood wins this race, a driver from the UK and Ireland, with Russ Addy in second place. Paul Stump rounding out your podium here. John Morgan, it's what could have been for John. He finishes in fourth place with Michael Bailey. Good result for Bailey in fifth. Douglas Beasley makes it into the top 6 ahead of Stefan Rosejan. Randy Shoemake 8th, and then a big gap back to David Riley in 9th. And Ernie Cancio rounding out your top 10. Gene Moore 11th. Good result for the driver from Carolina. With Peter Hallstrom, we saw in that battle with Bob Kern to finish 12th and 13th. They were the last drivers on the lead lap of this 28 car field. Then drivers one lap down. Ragnar Wislov, who we saw have that incident at the end, he took a tour back to the pit, so he's the first of the drivers who finished a lap down. Bruce Poole, who we saw with a big incident down into turn 1. Bob Kern, Jaredus Jorison, Barry Hills, Joel Martin and Louis Canal round out your top 20. And the last driver one lap down was Robert Love. And then those that did not finish: Jerry Kerr, JC Hay, Jack Turner, Gary Bystrom, Donald Poole, Dev Donnelly and Jared Florison in 28th place. John Morgan with the fastest lap of the race here today. We're going to be getting ready for a couple more interviews here, but Nolan, it was the race that nobody wanted to win, it felt like, there here today in both races.
Phillip Island has a tendency to be very crash-filled, definitely attrition-filled, and a part of that is just how difficult it is. When you look at the layout, it does not look difficult, but the fact is, quite a few of these corners are off-camber, especially with the runners. I mean, even to the front straight, like, you can still see the camber falling off to the right side of the racetrack there. It's just so difficult in order to keep these cars on a track. It's such a unique facility and such a challenging one as well, but it's such a fun and flowing one as well. And I think that is part of what is super fantastic about this track, and also why it has a reputation of having a lot of attrition in it that we are so used to seeing here.
Well, why don't we have a word with your race winner, and Nolan Rempel, take it away with Stephen Greenwood.
Well, Steve, it was an absolutely fantastic race again. You didn't quite manage to put it together to get what you needed in the race 1, but you certainly managed to get it done in race 2, 5th on the grid, and victory lane now for you in the 555 machine. So no doubt a good day for you as you matched the points all there of Ragnar Wislov.
Yeah, thanks very much. It was so near and so close in the first one, but yeah, I was glad to get it back in the second.
Let's kind of talk about the second race here for a moment, because good grief, that second race was absolutely intense for you. I mean, you and Wislov were just going back and forth, lap after lap. It's like neither one of you guys were wanting to really give any quarter, and eventually a mistake of Wislov's own doing is what kind of sealed the deal for you. And then at that point, all you had to do was just keep it steady to the end, and you were then good to go. So I'll talk about your race so far. I mean, what was the kind of like from your perspective as you were dicing it out with one of the better drivers on the grid?
Well, to be honest, I was thinking all the time that I shouldn't really fight him. I should just follow and sort of try and gap the cars behind us. But, you know, it just gets too tempting. So that thought went out the window. But yeah, it's a good race for him. I like racing with him. He's very good, clean.
Oh, absolutely. It was definitely a very good fight between you guys, and definitely was glad to hear and see just how clean it was going to be. But obviously, Phillip Island is a challenge, but then we get to Long Beach next week, and that is a whole other beast in of itself. It's the only street circuit that there is out there on the schedule, and well, we know how difficult Long Beach can be. So what do you think the strategy is going to be for you coming on April 28th?
Strategy. The strategy's got to be just to keep the car in one piece, really, and hope you're there at the end. I can't see much beyond that, to be honest.
Well, then the best of luck to you at next week's race at Long Beach. And, well, hopefully we'll be talking to you again at the end of the season when we head on over to Barber Motorsports Park.
Okay, thank you very much.
That was your race winner there, Mr. Paul Smith, taking it home with a very beautiful performance there. Got everything done the way he needed to and secured himself a race victory here in the second race at Phillip Island.
Yeah, he certainly did. Let's talk now to one of our former champions as well, Russ Addy. Russ, we'll sort of look away and not pay attention to race one, but race two, what a race it was for you out there. Just talk us through that, because it looked action-packed from what we were seeing. Russ, have we got a copy?
No one. I can't hear you, so it's a little rough here.
We'll try and hopefully get this all sorted out for us, and hopefully Ruston can get to hear us, because I would love to speak to Russ and be able to get to hear his thoughts on this one. And hopefully, Russ, can you get us now, copy? What we'll do is we'll just leave it a minute here. Just hopefully Russ can be able to sort out, so we can sort out these technical problems. But Nolan, I mean, it was a tremendous race between Addy and Stump, swapping positions all the time, and yeah, it was certainly really exciting between the two of them. They were just constantly going at it in third and fourth place.
Oh, it absolutely was. I mean, between himself and Stump, I mean, they were switching places literally every single lap. I mean, you could just watch the battles on the side of the timing screens, even when they weren't on screen. You could see, like, every lap they were going back and forth, back and forth. Those are two very, very evenly matched drivers, and they were side by side for most of the race right up to the end.
Certainly were, and we'll just give Russ another moment or two to be able to hopefully sort out those issues here. But yeah, looking at it as a whole then, I mean, a couple of those drivers who didn't have a good first race, Russ Addy being one of those. Stefan Rosegen, I mean, how frustrating it will it be for Stefan to finish in 7th place when he was up there in 3rd place at one point?
And threatening for the race lead too. He was definitely a huge contender for the race win, and it's just one of those self-inflicted errors on the exit of turn 2. It's so easy to run wide through there if you try to take a wider line, and he wasn't the only one that got caught out by it. A lot of drivers were, really caught out by that corner today, and it goes to show again just how tricky of a track this thing is, that you can have all this practice and still find yourself making the mistakes like that.
Right, we're going to try. We're going to try again, and hopefully Russ can hear us. Russ, have you got a copy? It doesn't seem so that we have Russ. So I'm afraid we're going to have to leave that one there. But let's look forward then to the rest of the season here, because, well, I mean, we had tremendous racing here at Phillip Island, but well, Long Beach, as you mentioned then, Nolan, you go from one race where it seemed to be a race of attrition to Long Beach where you would expect it to be a race of attrition.
Street circuit racing is one of the most difficult forms of racing that you can experience, especially in open wheel cars. I mean, even with all the runoff here, you saw how many cars ended up in barriers. Well, there isn't any runoff, period. There is no room for error. The street circuits, especially along Beach, it's a track that punishes every single mistake you make. So I have a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot fewer drivers finishing the race in that one than we did this week. Of course, we won't be there for the next week. We will be back, though, for the season finale at Barber.
Yeah, absolutely. So these drivers, they will be heading to Long Beach, Daytona, Laguna Seca, Phoenix, Spa. I mean, Spa-Francorchamps, that's a mouth-watering prospect for this series. But then Barber Motorsports Park, quite a challenging track, not the easiest track to overtake at, but as we saw in the IndyCars at the weekend, can produce some good action, and you'll be able to catch all of that on the 2nd of June here on RaceSpotTV. Don't forget that we are here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us here on the channel. Also, give us a follow on one of the various social media places that you can catch us here on RaceSpotTV. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram, and we've also got a Twitch account as well, and make sure you go and follow that one. But this has been the 60 plus racing adventures from Phillip Island, from myself, Paul Smith, and from Nolan Rempel here. It's goodbye.